My dad actually, though, is a Palestinian refugee. My dad grew up in one of the worst refugee camps in the world.
Looking at it, like, what's your opinion on Hamas?
One of the hardest things to understand is whatever your opinion about Hamas is, has no effect about a genocide happening right now.
You'll hear like Spencer Cox saying how much they've cut taxes when in reality every tax has been raised.
My tax is more than I've ever paid in taxes right now. It's absolutely absurd how much I pay in taxes.
No, this is great though, because I like what you're saying about like holiday. And it's like, I feel like there's so many weird pockets now in Utah where it's like where I live is like the most conservative area probably in all of Utah.
In what, Orem?
In Orem, where you get up to a holiday.
Maybe even more than Provo.
Oh, it's where I live is so conservative.
Because you get the college, like liberal kids from all over the country coming into BYU. And that is true. Yeah, Orem is. And like Pleasant Grove, basically anything like north. But I don't know, my partner, she's from Santa Quin. That's pretty.
I guess that's true. As you get into more like those country areas.
Yeah, down there, Payson, Santa Quin.
But you'd be surprised. They end up just going for the people that they are from their area, it seems like.
Yeah.
But holiday is an interesting vibe to me because I feel like you get like really cool people and then you get like a lot more liberally people, like the teachers and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of a mix. But honestly, one thing like I've learned is you want a little bit of that mix in life, because like that's what brings the good restaurants. I used to live in Orem. You know that, right?
Yeah.
I lived in Orem for like from 2006 to like 2012 or something like that. Because we used to train at the old pit elevated down there.
Oh, that was bomb.
That was the place. Yeah, down in Orem. And I would just be like, this place has no freaking food anywhere. Like no good restaurant. I mean, it started other than like they're starting to pop up now, but even then.
But then in 2006 to 2012,
yeah,
you had like the pizza factory.
Basically, like I would go to the pizza factory, and then, and then like because I'm originally from like Seattle, and the liberal people do bring in better food. That's one thing that's kind of
creativity,
yeah. And like like someone's more likely to go get like a banh mi. And they want to eat it from a place that's like authentic and stuff. So I don't know. I'm like a hipster at heart, I guess.
Well, when you walk into a place and like the chefs are all covered in tattoos, it's gonna be good.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. I mean, depends the tattoos. I don't know. Like you're like with some prison food in here.
No, I feel like all the good chefs. Like when I went to Seattle, there's so many good food places.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, Seattle's it's a hot spot for food. I love Asian food. Like, if I'm going to go out to eat, I'm going to go out and eat Asian food. I can't cook that at home.
Where do you go here?
Oh, dude, Little Saigon, Vietnamese, right around the corner. Dude, it's like, he cooks it like a homemade. It's like mom and pa still. They make the best pho. Like, a lot of people like some of the other spots, but you start to taste, like, they take out, like, the fish sauce and the oyster sauces because they want to, like, get people, like my chick, like she's from around here and she's like, oh, I don't want oyster sauce. And I'm like, no, that's how they get it. You got to put that oyster and that fish sauce in there, make it super salty. And so I think like that's what you got to look for is like that pocket. And that place is packed. I mean, we tried to go last night and they sold out of pho. They were out. I was like, holy shit.
Well, there you go. If you're looking for a good food place.
Yeah, Little Saigon. Shout out, I don't even own it, I just
you just love it. That's
that's
what it means even more.
Yeah, they don't even like give me a discount or anything. And the guy though is a fight fan, so he's always like, I come and he's like, oh yeah, I watch you fight, bro.
Well, just to give a quick intro a little bit. We're here at the Pit SLC.
Yeah.
It's bomb. They have the full cage here. Going to start doing kickboxing. You teach literally all martial arts. I was trying to get out of you like, hey, what do you feel like you're actually best at? Where's your bread and butter? Mm-hmm. And you're like, no, I just do it all.
Well, I think like the mix of it. Like I don't think you should. I know it's like a little technical, but as a mixed martial artist, I don't think you should like try to train them so separate. You know what I mean? Like if you're just doing jiu-jitsu, you're getting jiu-jitsu habits, and you're doing boxing, you're getting boxing habits. While like realistically, MMA is like the only reason people used to train like that was because the lack of ability to be like, hey, do you know all of it? It was like you had to go find a grappling coach, a wrestling coach, a jiu-jitsu coach, boxing, and then you're the one that was trying to bring it all together. But realistically, like in any other discipline sport, like that's not how it works. You have an expert coach and then probably like a weight training coach. And you know what I mean? Like that's how it should be working. So I really believe I'm like the first generation of mixed martial artists. Like I grew up watching Pride as a kid, UFC, and I was like, I'm going to be a fighter when I grow up, you know? And I was like, all right, I'm going to wrestle because I got beat up at practice one time by this kid that was on the wrestling team, and like he took me down. So I was like, I think I was in like 6th grade or something. Not even, no, I was younger or whatever. And then I was like, all right, I got to start wrestling. So I joined like the middle school and then started going from there.
Well, I think that's what's so rare is like, especially here in Utah, like I think there's a lot of great gyms that, and a lot of awesome coaches, like no disrespect to any of them, but there's very few that I feel like the coaches themselves would even say they're experts in MMA.
Yeah.
Like as I've talked to a lot of them are going to say, yeah, I'm way better at jiu-jitsu. Yeah, I do some striking, some Muay Thai, some kickboxing, whatever, but I'm better at jiu-jitsu. Or they're the other way around. Like, yeah, I'm way better at striking. I know some wrestling, some jiu-jitsu, but I'm way more into striking. So it is, I think, rare even now. Like definitely it's picking up more to find a gym that's just like.
Yeah, like down, you train at
MMA.
Agima, right?
I have trained there before.
Yeah, like Agima, for instance, you know, you got like Court and Dane. And like Dane would probably say he's a jiu-jitsu because that's what he started. But then Court is a martial art. Like Court is everything. Like what do you know what I mean? Like Court can do it all. And he's also part of that generation that did pro boxing because he, you know what I mean? Like that was what you had to do to get it, everything. And now he can, you know, share that. And I think you're going to start seeing that a lot. And you're going to watch fighting just kind of elevate. And, you know, I think Salt Lake should be a hotbed for fighting. People love it out here. We got the population to support it. You got, you know, kids and stuff. Like Vegas is like not like a family, you know, area. Like there are families there, but it's not like Salt Lake where you're going to raise a bunch of kids that are into wrestling, into martial arts. I just think the Utah culture
discipline.
stuff. Yeah.
I just feel like people here are just so disciplined and catch on to things like that quickly because I feel like naturally it just is already in the culture.
Yeah. The Mormon culture is big in wrestling.
Oh,
I mean,
huge.
I always feel like it was like, because I grew up wrestling and like I grew up in Seattle, so like, and I grew up Mormon, but it's not like here in Utah, because like here in Utah, your ward is like just your little corner of people. Mine was like across 3 high schools. Like, like at my high school, we had 4 Mormon kids, you know what I mean? And like, and I was a Jack Mormon as one of them. So it was like at one of the 4. And so it's like a different thing. But I always remembered like growing up, like we'd do like Boy Scout jamborees, which were specifically Mormon kids from all over the whole state of Washington. And we'd always build a pit of wrestling and everyone would be out there wrestling, fighting, getting down. You know what I mean? Like kids would be it was just, I think it's just being tough is kind of a little bit in the culture. And I think it's spread out here in Utah because it is heavy influenced in our culture.
Oh, for sure. And parents just want their kids, I think, like when they're young, at least I've never really lived outside of Utah in like a family area. Like when I did, I was single and living in apartments. So I don't know what it was like for people living there. So I lived in like Kansas City and San Antonio and Raleigh. But like when you're young, parents like at 6, 5, they want to put you in something organized.
Yeah.
And so whether it's like gymnastics, karate, football, basketball, soccer, whatever, they want you to do all of it. And I think I played every sport and in an organized league before I was like 8. Yeah. And so I think like kids catch on to that and they just start rolling. But so you started in high school, you wrestled, you always wanted to be a fighter. And then
like I would like want to be like a pro soccer player too. But like I always want to be a professional athlete. I wasn't going to be like, I didn't want to do anything else. Like my dad actually though is a Palestinian refugee. So he came over and when he came to America, he just started training us like when we were born. And so I grew up in a pretty rigid household where I do like hundreds of push-ups and be able to run and stuff like that and swim. So like I always was like, I'm going to be a professional. And like I had an older brother, a younger brother. And so I came out of the womb ready to fight, you know.
So like why did he come from Palestine and like what was that culture shift like?
Well, I mean, my dad grew up in one of the worst refugee camps in the world called the MRE camp. It's on the border of like Jerusalem. And it was like Yasser Arafat used to be the leader, you know, the Palestinian PLO. And he would even say like, don't go in there. And like they would like recruit kids from there to fight. So my dad was like basically a 12-year-old soldier fighting the IDF which you see going on right now. Like, yeah, right? And now people kind of see really what's going on over there. And they're like, oh, shit, that's not what we thought was happening. And so, like, my dad was in that culture. I mean, and he came here to America and, you know, he, like, kind of, like, assimilated. I think he didn't want to really be, like, it's very, like, PTSD, I imagine. So when you come here and so, like, I was raised very Americanized, I would say, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, nothing very, like...
Well, like, what's like your perspective like with what is going on over there now?
Oh,
it's just an interesting perspective because I think being from Utah,
yeah,
everyone, I don't say everyone's the same, like, but like,
yeah,
you kind of get, people say you're in a bubble a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'd say that's
true.
Kind of true.
It's very true. I mean, when I moved here, I would tell people I'm Palestinian and they go, Pakistani? And I would have to teach them what a Palestinian was, you know? And, you know, like for me, it's not I believe it's a black and white, you know, it's black and white. There's people that are okay with people murdering children and there's people that are not. There's light and there's dark. There's nothing in between. So it's basically, I don't think my opinion even matters anymore. My opinion's like, yeah, you know what my opinion is because I'm Palestinian, right?
Yeah.
You know that, like, my grandfather was kicked off our land. We were literally at gunpoint kicked off of our land. That's like what happened over there by the communist Jewish Zionist party. Mm-hmm. They like were the terrorists that came and like killed a bunch of my uncles, great uncles. Like my family's been mass murdered. My name Nijem is a very powerful name in the Middle East because it means star, and like it is in the Quran. So like and my family is a very big, like, we fought a lot of wars, and so like we've lived on the same land as long as there's human history. And I'm the first generation to ever be born off of that land. Isn't that wild?
And that's the same land right now that like Israel's fighting with now to take over.
It was our land was taken in the 40s. So during like
it's just right there in that strip then, like
yeah,
in
still
Gaza,
there.
right
and then my dad was forced to born in a refugee camp.
Yeah.
And so he grew up in a refugee camp with like 10 brothers and sisters in a little 2-bedroom apartment, like starving to death, where the IDF soldiers would come in and you know, say, oh, we're going to raid you and basically go through all your stuff, beat you. My uncle was tortured, raped. Like you see that, how they rape people there. And so like now most of my family can't even assimilate into real life, you know? They're so fucked up. Like my dad, for instance, like I love him to death, but he can't assimilate. He can't be a person in society. Like he was fucking at 12 years old had an AK in his hand. Like, can you imagine that?
No, that's what I think is so crazy is I think it's something so far on the other side of the world and people have such strong opinions about it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I don't know if everyone gets the full picture because it's easy to listen to one side or listen to one famous person or listen to one political figure. And you're like, well, that's who I believe in, and that's the truth through and through, and that's where, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
people are so easy and quick to jump on a bandwagon.
Well, you know, like Jerusalem has been, you know, it's a hotbed for all religions before ever there was a war. So like even before like Palestine, there's Palestinian Christians. So like, you know, I know a lot of Christians. Actually, there's like 20 families that live here in Utah that are Palestinian Christians. The first Christians are Palestinians. Who was the first people Jesus taught? We're Palestinians. So, and really our birthright is all the way down through Mecca. And like, that's the Palestinian birthright is all of that, like our land forever. So like people, and it, you know, you want to say people have been fighting over this land for thousands of years. That's not true. Was there the Crusade Wars, was that? But you know, since the 20s and World War, that's when the fighting really started happening. It wasn't like the 1800s, they weren't fighting that much. There was Palestinians, Jews, and Christians. They're all Palestinian living there. Like, and that's where the problem comes, is like Judaism's become a nationality while it's actually a religion. It'd be like you saying, oh, what ethnicity are you?
Mormon.
I'm Mormon. You're like, what is that? Well, we're Mormon, you know? But your religion's Mormon. And I have Jewish friends and people that are very, you know, religious, and I play soccer on a kibbutz team. Like, it's all Jews except me. You know what I mean? We all play and like very similar. Like the Israeli ones, we look the same, but then there's ones that are from all over the other world that we don't look the same at all too. And that's, I think, a big thing in Utah is like, because of the Christian culture, you believe, oh, well, Israel is my your ally, right?
Yeah.
Like if I asked you before anything, you'd say, "Who's your ally over there?"
Yeah, Israel.
Yeah, Israel. Yeah.
And like looking at it, like, what's your opinion on Hamas and like the stuff going on? I just really I don't know that much about it. So so it's a really rare opportunity, like to talk to someone that knows. And it's like, I see the headlines, you watch the
and everyone
Twitter.
wants you to be like, are you going to denounce Hamas?
Yeah, or like, and it just is, I think it's an easy thing to ask and say, but not really understand the context.
Yeah, and like I think one of the hardest things to understand is whatever your opinion about Hamas is, has no effect about a genocide happening right now. Because realistically, Hamas was voted in 2006. So, you've probably heard that they voted Hamas in.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone hears that because that's all the propaganda. They voted Hamas in 2006. And 50% of Gaza are under 18. So you're telling me the genocide is being justified. So then if you do the math of people that are actually able to vote, it was like 30%. And then if those, how many were over 18 at that time in 2006? And I've seen the math, you can watch it. So current people living in Gaza that voted Hamas in is 7% of the population at the max. So why does it matter what Hamas is? Hamas is a vacuum of power that they're being, if you understood what was happening on a daily basis to them, like if, like Russia came in and said, they were just now controlled America and they would come and take your money. They could come and take your house, which they do.
They do that, right? They'll just come into your house and be like, this is our house now.
Yeah, you've all seen that video of that one guy goes, if I don't steal your house, someone else is going to.
Yeah.
Which is true. Someone else is going to do it. So then, like, at what point would you justify, and that's the other thing, no matter what you believe, under the UN, you're allowed to actually defend yourself when you're being occupied. So there's nothing that Hamas has done that is actually under the UN that's illegal. They are allowed to rebel. You're allowed to have a rebellion if you're currently being occupied. So really, at the end of the day, Hamas is irrelevant to what's going on right now. And that's just a hot, easy topic that the news can throw out to justify a genocide. So what's going on the West Bank then? On the other side, that's not controlled by Hamas. What's going on in Golan Heights, which is not controlled by Hamas? Hamas only controls Gaza. And there's still genocide going on and land theft going on everywhere else. So to me, of course, at what point are you going to defend yourself? And I spoke out against Hamas in Palestine and was fucking driven out of that country by Hamas, literally in the middle of the night. My dad's like, hey, we're not in America, Ramsey. You can't just speak your opinion. And you know what my opinion was? And I was there in 2006, actually, right? When the elections were going on and the fucking country was blowing up. Because I'm American. I grew up in America. My last name's Nijem, which is my dad was a very well-known, in the Palestine. So when I went back there and I was in the West Bank, people really wanted to see what my opinion was. You know what I mean? So they would come and unlike here in America, the men there, they get together in coffee shops at night and they talk. At this coffee shop, they're like, what's your opinion of Hamas? And I go, I don't believe fighting is the right answer because no matter what, you're going to lose. Because the IDF has all the weapons, all the guns. So they didn't like that. All the
allies.
Yeah, all the allies. They have America, money. They have everything you need to, to
win a war.
So then I was driven out of that. We had to get up in the middle of the night and we went and left the country and went back to Jordan because, people didn't want to hear that opinion. So I believed in, and I was 19 at the time in college. So guess what? Fucking liberal, of course, right? With my liberal thoughts. So I was like, I believe non-resistant or non-violent resistance is the only truth. Non-violent resistance is the only way. And, Gaza did a march, a non-violent march to get out of their open air prison. So the citizens, a 2 million person march or whatever it was, you can look up, I don't know exactly the numbers. And then they end up slaughtering over 2,000 people. And so I was like, oh, fuck, I was wrong. Nonviolent isn't the way unless you're just willing to die with everybody. So who knows what the way is, but the way that they're living right now is
not it.
It's not it. They're not able to live.
Well, it seems like this has just been a hot topic. Like when I used to do door-to-door sales.
Oh, yeah.
When I used to do door-to-door sales, I'd have people from both sides ask me what I thought, and I'm like,
really?
I just want to sell.
Yeah.
Well, like, because I'd run into like some random Israeli family or some random like Palestinian family. I'm like, what do you think America should do? And I'm like, just because you're like talking to them for a while, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even then I was like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
And they just like spout off their stuff to me and be like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Sounds like what we should do. So do you want the inside done or just the outside? you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're like, yeah, I don't know. Like, but like as a sales guy, you can't really have an opinion because I used to do door-to-door sales too. So
you get it.
People would ask me like, I would just be like, oh no, I grew up here. I don't know anything about it. So anyways, back to the selling alarms. I was like, this neighborhood's been kind of dangerous.
For real though. So it's like, it just is really interesting because obviously I'm conservative. And so you feel like you're like, okay, we're allies with Israel. We should help them. Like, yeah, like Gaza's been attacking Israel back. But it's really interesting hearing your perspective of it as someone
I'm conservative too.
Yeah.
And if anything, I don't think we should be given $4 billion a year to Israel. That's not very conservative, right?
No, it's not. And that's the thing I think is really interesting about now is people get so caught in this battle of left versus right, and they get these tribes of like, what my tribe is saying we should do is what we should do. And it's like, I don't think we should be sending money anywhere until we're like protecting our own land.
Yeah,
like
put your oxygen mask on first before you help the kids, right?
Yes, and that's like, I think that's the issue we're having right now as a country is people want to start looking out at other issues before we're even taking care of first things first at home. And I think the one thing that's wild is people aren't able to just have a good conversation and be like, oh, like I never knew that, or like listen and be like, oh, like maybe we should just have empathy for people and be like, hey.
Yeah, and like nowadays, if you ask me how to solve that, I said, honestly, I don't know, man. There's probably smarter people in the world. You should be asking.
You'd hope.
That I hope. I'm a fucking karate instructor at the end of the day. Like I'm here to teach you how to fight, dude. So I don't know. Hopefully you find someone smarter. But I do know that we should stop sending them $4 billion a year. I do. And at the end of the day, like our wars aren't their wars. Like I don't think anyone should die in Iran, like period. Like no one should be going over there that's American. We shouldn't be sending any of our bombs there. I mean, but then maybe sell them. I guess we're selling them because that's money first. Like just sell them. Don't give them money. Like sell our bombs over there. But then it's like also like I get like, if you're American right now, the number one thing we get from the Middle East is oil, right? And then Israel's been our ally for oil. But then like at the end of the day, it's like more Saudi Arabia. So like, I think it's so complex. We just need to like focus on America first. Like,
well, I couldn't agree more. And it's just as wild to see like in Utah, I feel like we should have the same mentality where it's like, let's focus on Utah first.
Yeah.
Like let's help Utah as a state instead of like, I feel like right now there's just been this weird shift of like trying to get on board with the national agendas.
Yeah.
Where it's like, look, we aren't like Boston or New York. We're not California.
Or like, how is that your concern? Like Mike Lee's like, Israel's our greatest ally. Israel, we need to send. I'm like, Mike Lee, there's literally, yesterday I chased a dude out of here, or from the front that was trying to shit out here, like we're like getting overtaken by homeless. It's impossible to live right now. Like if anyone that has a family, I mean, how much is your grocery bills? Quadrupled, I imagine.
Well, and that's the wild thing is like you'll hear like Spencer Cox saying how much they've cut taxes when in reality every tax has been raised.
My tax is more than I've ever paid in taxes right now. It's absolutely absurd how much I pay in taxes.
And that's realistically something politicians can control across the board. But instead we have Ukrainian President Zelensky coming to Utah.
Yeah.
And we're having like Ukraine Day. We have Mike Lee talking about Israel. But it's like, what about Utah? Like, what about just...
Or we're having Trans Day.
Yes.
Pride Day. Okay, yeah, you're gay, you're trans, who cares? We're in a fucking America. No one cares. But we should be having American flags only. We should be celebrating America. And really, we should only be, like, celebrating the state of Utah, too. Like, that should be our number one thing. But then we all just get caught in, like you said, like, oh, I'm conservative, so I have to fight for Israel, and that's my biggest thing, and blah, blah. Oh, well, I'm liberal, so trans rights are my number one thing, because we need to protect the trans, and blah. And then you have to choose, like, one or the side, but who's saying, like, hey, let's actually figure out a way to get rid of the homeless here in Utah. Let's bring rent down. Maybe find ways to like, the government should be subsidizing groceries to families. You want us to have kids? You know how fucking expensive it is to raise a kid? You have 2 of them? Yeah. Like, subsidize our groceries then. Give every mother some money. Like, give every mom in the state a certain amount of money every month. That's the only way to make our state better.
Well, the thing that I think would really help already is just looking at like freedom. Like, we're just, with how much regulations there are on businesses, on whatever. It's like businesses can't afford to pay their employees more because of all the regulations, because of all the things that the government puts on them. Whereas like you take down those regulations, then families can pay their bills. Because I think with COVID, we found out like when you give people money for things, they just don't work.
Yeah.
Like our office and
I'm not saying like give moms money. I'm saying like subsidize groceries for families. That's different.
And I think there's ways to like definitely do it where it's like you can build the like freedom and like keep government doing what they should be doing, which is almost nothing.
Yes.
And like let the people grow. And that's when we flourish as a country the most.
It's like but then the government does have to watch big corporations, you know what I mean? Like that's where I also agree. Like let people do it, but that's the problem. Is like when
you have the funds where the corporations are literally
like Amazon. Like okay, these guys should not be working at Amazon and not able to afford to live because the government subsidizes most of Amazon's employees, right? You know that, right?
I didn't know that.
So we subsidize them by Amazon doesn't pay them enough, and so they're all on food stamps. Government assistance and stuff like that. So that's the number one thing we need to go after is big corporations. Yeah, because we're subsidizing big corporations that underpay their people.
Well, they're just lobbying in the government to get people to fix.
Exactly.
Like that's,
and then
that's the whole
what's
issue.
His name? The dude's flying the space in a penis craft. You know what I mean?
Yes.
While his employees are being subsidized by mine and your taxes. Like you own a small business, so we don't get anything subsidized. But if you work for Amazon,
what's the opposite of being subsidized?
Yeah. You're getting squeezed.
You're punished.
And it's true, bro. Like it's squeezed, and it's proven 100 times that if you give small businesses tax cuts, they hire more employees, which helps the economy grow.
Well, that is. We could end here and be like, hey, this is how to fix America.
Yeah, that's
because it really is that simple. Because I think people always want like a government handout. And these big companies, you know how you win an election. And what I found out this time around doing Jason Walton's campaign is money runs everything. So
money rules everything. And we're sending trillions of dollars out of the country. Like, people don't realize we're being robbed. Like, literally, that's why our groceries are more money. That's why our gas is more money, because we're sending all of our money away. Like, and I think,
where does it come from?
Yeah,
it comes from you.
Yeah, it's coming from us. Like, they don't realize that that's really what's happening, and we're being bled dry.
So, like, the thing I like want to tell people is like, if you want to if you have an ideal or something you want to win, you have to support that person. That kind of, you have to go out and vote. Like you can send them money. Yes, that's great. Go send them money, buy a hat, buy a shirt, whatever. But really what makes the biggest difference is voting. Like I had so many people that were shocked by the Republican primary elections this time around. And I had probably 30 people text me the day after. They're like, can you believe this?
Does it matter though? Do you think it matters? Like, I don't think it matters who we vote for president in the state of Utah.
That one, I think
it doesn't matter.
I think it's important to actually vote for your local leaders though.
Yeah.
Because like you'll have people like, dude, can you believe that Spencer Cox won by so much? And I'm like, yes, I can.
Yeah.
Because did you vote? And they're like, no. Then I go ask all 30 people if they voted. One person of the 30 voted. And so it's like, well, hey, like that's exponential.
Yeah, but I also think like I saw a lot of people pissed about the Spencer Cox one.
Yeah.
But I mean, I live here in Salt Lake, and I was like, he for sure won. Like everyone in Salt Lake was like,
I do think he for sure won.
Yeah.
For like, I think Spencer Cox won.
What's the other guy's name again?
Phil Lyman.
Yeah, he was kind of a wild card.
No, he's a good dude.
Is he? I don't know, bro. He's kind of a wild card, don't you think?
No, I think he had some good things.
I'm saying it. Look, live in the liberal city in a conservative state, and it's all just about the balance. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like as long as that's why we would vote for like Spencer Cox, because he's kind of like the
that's what you'd hope.
Middle.
Those people that try to catch the middle are all those spenders. Mm-hmm. So like if you look at Spencer Cox, he's spending like we're the 4th most accepting state to illegal immigrants, which is all tax dollars spent.
Really,
all to illegals. We spend the most money. Like if you look at the taxing, there's like how much citizens pay per state on average.
Yeah.
We're the 11th highest
Of like
state
taxes?
Of taxes.
Dang. But then like my other side is I've lived in a lot of other places and this is the best place I've ever lived. Hands down.
Yeah, it's great.
Like it's safe, it's clean. So like there is that side of it too. So I'm like also like kind of like
But here, let me double down on this for you.
yeah. But I'll double down on this.
Okay.
Like I've lived in Seattle, it's a hellhole. Friggin' San Francisco, hellhole. And then like out here, just like, bro, this is like, and I've traveled the world. This is kind of, we got a little bit of a.
No, it's amazing here. And the thing is the tax thing hasn't really gone that bad until
this year.
Till
or
recently. It just started raising and getting more and more. And if you look at it, kind of the trend of like states as they go from conservative to liberal.
Yeah.
We're kind of at that tipping point.
And see, that's where I'm coming in and saying, watch out from a place like I've been in 2 places that went like that and it went hell.
Well, and
like,
that's
because when I was a little kid, Seattle was pretty conservative and then all of a sudden it tipped over, you know?
That's the path we're on. That's why I'm just like, as the taxes go up, and if you look at those other 10 states ahead of us,
Yeah,
clearly Democrat states, liberal, for sure. But then you look at the next 7
But like,
states.
I think the biggest problem, and this is my biggest complaint with Trump too, is the polarization of being a political leader. That's not what politics is about. Like, you're a mediator, and that's where I really believe. Like, where I would never like. Did I agree with some things that the Lyman Chase guy was? Yeah, I agree with some things, but if you're a polarizing character, you don't belong in politics. You belong on a podcast. You belong running a company. But I feel like politicians are meant to be like the mediator. Like me and you have different opinions, and then the third politician can help us find a middle ground. You know,
No,
that's what
I
America.
think that is a good point.
That's what America was found on.
I've never had anyone put it like that, but I think that's true. Right now, I feel like we need to get back. There's really no middle, I don't think, anymore.
Yeah.
I think there's left, and then there's extreme right. But I feel like there's the majority of us are somewhere over here.
We're
where
just in the
like,
middle.
We want there to be freedom. We don't want to be taxed the crap out of. We want to live our lives.
But not even like I think at the end of the day, it's not even like that. It's just like the real thing is like you just want life, liberty, and happiness.
Yes.
You know? And like you don't care if your taxes were 12% or 80%, but if you're making enough money to, or not 80%, that wouldn't work. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like they're like in Europe, they're high
if you knew
taxes.
what your money was going to, like,
And
that's
like,
the thing.
But
It's
if like you weren't being squeezed out, like if
Yes.
you had like good health insurance, you knew your kids were going to go to a good college because you're at least, you know, like you don't give a shit what your taxes are. I train a lot of wealthy clients that live a lot of different places, and I was like, man, that place sucks because the taxes are so high. He goes, I make so much money, I don't give a shit what taxes cost. I was like, all right, fair. You know what I mean? And so like it's just about like if you were above, like you were already happy, successful, had all your, you know, like means met, you wouldn't care, right?
Yeah, you would hope.
You would hope.
But
yeah.
then you have all those. That's the way it comes down to is like, how do you help the middle class and the poor people?
Yeah.
Because I think everyone wants to.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I think the left wants to, and I do think the right wants to, but the ideas of how to do it
Are too separate,
so
yeah.
drastically different.
And I was just like, why do we only have 2 ideas, man? Like, why do we only have 2 sides?
That's what I'm getting at. I feel like there's this new silent majority of people that are like, need to be involved. Mm-hmm. You need to be involved. We need to get people like us involved because that's what I think is really what will help with transition and change.
I think that's got to be
That's it, dude.
All right, bro.
Okay,
That was
thanks,
fun,
homie.
man. Thank you, man.
Yes, thank you.